should start the next topic immediately.
Uh, Ma'am, I don't really have questions, but I just wanted to get feedback on the interview we uh, did.
Your voice is cracking. Is it for me or is it for everyone?
I'm not sure. Am I audible now?
You're audible, but your voice in between. I mean, the words are cracking.
Okay, ma'am.
Just try again. Oh no, it's completely gone. No, can't hear you. Maybe close the camera and then talk. Might work.
Hello, am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, better.
Ma'am, not really questions. Just wanted to get your feedback. You mentioned that the interview about the interview that we executed.
So I
Like,
gave the
how could
feedback
have
side by
we
side
done
only.
the interview better?
I think the feedback was given side by side.
Ma'am, I
No?
think
What
not ours, ma'am. I think you said something about the questions not being right or precise, I guess.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's all. I wanted to know how could I do better.
See, the whole idea of doing an interview or conducting an interview is to basically prepare your questions in advance. Like we said before, having a structured interview where your questionnaire is ready with you for the position that you're taking in interview. One thing for sure is that the interviews that we take for, especially the job interviews one, we can't take interview from one position to another with the similar kind of questions. Some questions can be similar. For example, where do you live, what is your salary, and all that stuff. But other than that, rest of the things you will have to create new as per the position that you're hiring for. So, research, your job analysis would have a lot of questions that you can ask from the people. And then, whatever you want to know for the job position. So, for example, the job position, the job analysis that you have created states that, the kind of competency you're hiring for. According to the competencies can be decision making, problem solving, analytical skills, whatever you've been looking for. According to those, then you create your questions, right? So, position to position, things change. And that is the reason why in interviews we use candidate assessment sheets. So candidate assessment sheets are prepared on the basis of the job analysis that you have prepared. So once you have understood how to prepare the job analysis, on that basis you will create a candidate assessment sheet and yeah, candidate evaluation sheet, whatever you want to call it. And that particularly sheet will give you an idea on what question, how much as per the answer you are rating people on the competencies that you're looking for. Right. So doing a competency analysis matrix for the entire organization or before creating the job analysis is very important. This will identify clearly the questions that you're looking for. Yesterday we practiced the questions which are general in nature, right? Without having much, knowledge about the functional role for which we are hiring for. Generally, we did for HR in case, you're hiring for HR. So in an HR manager, what are the competencies you will look for? Other than the functional knowledge ki MBA hai ya certification hai and all that, what will you look for in a person in person's personality? For example, you are going for an
Leadership,
HR manager. Okay, leadership is fine. Now, for leadership skills, what is the kind of
good
question you
communication
will
skills.
ask? एक एक लेके चलते हैं ना. So for
Ma'am, we can
leadership
ask,
skills, what kind of questions so that you can assess?
ma'am, we can ask how the person which I'm interviewing, I can ask them, how are you going? Perhaps if you were appointed as a leader or for the organization, how would you make sure that a healthy competition is balanced in the workforce? Or
Okay. That can be done, but why not get more, follow the method which we learned in the STAR method, right? Why not to give them situations, right? And situation means proper cases, small cases. Like, for example, you have 4 team members to handle tomorrow. How are you going to delegate the task amongst the 4 team members? That can be one way of understanding their leadership skills, right? Second would be, what if the conflict happens in within your team members? How are you going to resolve that particular conflict? So it will give you two ways answer for the conflict skills also, that how we can manage, and for the leadership skills also, right? So the questions, every question that we generally design before the interview is purely on the job analysis part, right? So practice that, and I think that will give you much more better identification of different positions and different kind of questions that we usually ask.
all right, ma'am. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And the observations yesterday, as I told you, for the first timers, you guys were really, really good in terms of confidence, in terms of how did you answer the questions without getting too much of nervous. One or two people obviously get nervous because it's very first time that they are doing such things. And fourth is that preparation of the questions that you guys did was quite well. I mean, some of you obviously did really well. Some of you did okay. So yeah, I think that now I don't remember who did what. So I just gave you the thing, observations yesterday only. All right. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Dipanjana, Anushka? What about other people? They're not joining the classes today.
No, ma'am. There's no any question.
Okay. So, did you try and read about transaction analysis? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am, I
Just
tried,
an
but I couldn't
overview,
able to
ma'am.
get that.
Ah, just an overview. I know it looks a little different, difficult to understand for the first timers. Yeah. But did you try or not is the question. That's very important to know.
Ma'am, I tried to read, but I was only able to get about the conditional learning.
कंडीशनल लर्निंग का ट्रांजैक्शन एनालिसिस से कुछ लेना देना नहीं है अभी.
Yes, ma'am, but I only understood about the conditional learning. I was not
Hmm.
able to get about the
Conditional
transaction.
learning, basically, we will come to when we will talk about training and development as a topic.
Okay.
So this is where it is generally used, conditional learning and other learning theories also, not just conditioning. Transaction analysis is largely used for, psychoanalysis of various people. Some people, some criminal psychologists, yeah, clinical psychologists, and other psychologists also uses in this particular tool in therapies to understand what are the problems that people have faced during their childhood, because of which now they are actually showing their emotions in a certain manner. Right? Let me just start the PPT. You can see the PPT, right?
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Why I have chosen this background? Any idea?
Very abstract.
Sorry?
Different colors appeal to different personality types and emotions.
Yeah. So different colors shows different emotions. And because we are going to talk about transaction analysis, it is going to create different kind of experiences and emotions in us as well. Sometimes people relate to it too much and they start doing a self-analysis on the basis of this particular theory. And that's when they find out why are we making so many mistakes in our communication style, or maybe how we are behaving in front of the other people. So this is what basically it talks about. So what is transaction analysis in normal terms? I'm not going to this is the definition that generally is used by the psychology people. But transaction analysis is basically the transactions that is happening between two people. And when we say transaction is basically verbal when we are communicating with two. The transaction covers live scripts and transaction. Live scripts are generally when I am saying something, but I am not really getting a response or something. Transaction gets completed when it is happening both the sides. जैसे communication में होता है. So once how the communication happens, when you're speaking something, you're sending a message to the sender. There is a receptor. The receptor takes the message and then responds you back. That's when the communication cycle gets completed. Similar thing happen in transaction analysis that if I am saying something to you and I'm not getting a response of it, that means my transaction is not getting completed in my communication, right? So that has to be done. This is a theory of personality where we use systematic psychotherapy group and personal change. Among psychological approaches, outstanding in the depth of the theory and the wide variety of its application. सब डिफिकल्ट वाला चीज है, इसको छोड़ देते हैं. ठीक है, यहाँ आते हैं फिर. एरिक बर्न ने क्या कहा है? एरिक बर्न इज द वन हु क्रिएटेड दिस पर्टिकुलर ईगो स्टेट्स आफ्टर मिस्टर फ्यूड, जिन्होंने साइकोलॉजी में बहुत सारी रिसर्च करके बहुत सारी किताबें लिखी हैं. आई थिंक एरिक बर्न आल्सो क्रिएटेड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स पोस्ट व्हाट फ्यूड हैज said after that, Sigmund Freud के बाद. Sigmund Freud used to relate everything with sexual energies that people produce, from our libidos, whether it's a child, whether it's, an adult or a adolescence. Where in ego states, in Eric Bern's theory, he said that whatever happened in our childhood and the things that we learned during our childhood in terms of giving responses to people, in terms of understanding or getting to know how I can adjust to the situations that I'm going with right now. So, for example, if there is a child whose childhood has gone into too much of trauma, it can be because parents fighting, it can be because of any family problems, it can be because of any societal problems, whatever. So how that child has learned to overcome those situations will show in the adulthood also. So that's what its transaction analysis talks about in ego states. Second, it talks about suppose everything has gone really, really well in your childhood, everything really good, parents have been really well, they have been really controlling, they have been telling you in giving instructions, okay, this is what you have to do, this is what you need not to do. Then responding to that kind of parents also, how you have overcome your childhood with that also shows and becomes a part of your personality, right? So whatever has happened in the childhood develops these three ego states. These three ego states are called parent ego state, adult ego state and child ego states. ये सब हमारे दिमाग में चल रहा है side by side. We don't get to know whether these things are going side by side because it is an unconscious behavior which we have picked up during the childhood. तब हमारे survival का कारण बन गया. Now it has become a part of our personality in how we react to situations, how we give answers back to people, how we generally do our day-to-day tasks also, right? In some people's personality, you will see there is a chance of looking at all the three ego states. Parent भी दिखेगा, adult भी दिखेगा, child भी दिखेगा. In some cases, you will see that one ego state is much more heavier than the other two whenever they are doing communications or doing any transactions with other. This is how it works. This is PAC. We generally call it PAC. So parent ego states, adult ego states, and child ego states. The reality is updated, confirmed. Data from PSA related to current situation. आपकी reality अभी है, updated है, confirmed है. हम उस पे अब क्या कर रहे हैं? Parent ego states है तो from parents or parental figures, we have accepted certain laws, certain values, certain prohibitions, some principles. जो हमने parents से उठाए और ये हमारे ancestors से चलते आ रहे हैं. Some our parents have picked up from their parents, we have picked up from them. So that becomes our values also of life, norms of life, whatever you want to call it, right? And some becomes very strict instructions in the way that we live our lives, right? And it's not just happens in childhood, it also happens once you become an adult. You also start taking those values and norms in your life when you become parent, and you also start doing the same thing with your children. For example, कुछ पेरेंट्स को मारना बहुत पसंद होता था जब हम लोग बड़े हो रहे थे. इट वॉज अ नॉर्मल थिंग और सबने मार खाई होगी हमारी एज ग्रुप में जो भी है. एंड इट वॉज वेरी नॉर्मल बिकॉज 5-6 बच्चे, 4-4 बच्चे, 3-3 बच्चे घर में होते थे. सो इट वॉज obviously one way of doing this. Even school teachers used to beat us up. So it was very normal thing. Once we started having one child, two child, then only it became too much of a problem for parents to accept कि मेरे पास इतना पैसा है, इतने महंगे स्कूल में भेज रहा हूँ, एसी स्कूल में भेज रहा हूँ, my child should not get beaten by anybody. Even I won't do that. So जैसे ही वो रिड्यूस होना शुरू हो गया, so वो पेरेंटल नॉर्म और पेरेंट ईगो स्टेट्स भी चेंज होनी शुरू हो गई वहां से, राइट? यू विल सी, and people started changing the way they are now nurturing their children, how they are raising their children as well. But certain things still remains the same कि रात को 9 बजे के बाद नहीं घूमना, ये वाले कपड़े नहीं पहनने, घर में ये डिसिप्लिन रखना है, बर्तन अपने आप रख कर आने हैं, मतलब थिंग्स लाइक दैट. सो सर्टेन डिसिप्लिन रूल्स एंड एवरीथिंग रिमेन सेम. देन आता है एडल्ट ईगो स्टेट. एडल्ट ईगो स्टेट सेज दैट my thinking, feeling and behavior is as per the reality which is right now happening right away. So whatever the situation I am in, whatever the circumstances I am in, I am just reacting to it from the current ego state that I am in. That means I am an adult. I'm more than age of 21, 22, whatever. And I'm looking at it logically and then I am giving the responses. Then आता है child ego state. Child ego state is total all the feelings and behaviors, thinking, feelings that we picked up when we were growing up. How we reacted to certain situations, how we worked upon certain situations, we became too dependent on our parents in terms of taking care of us, and that's why we felt privileges. So child ego states is more prevalent now, even when I have reached the age of 21, 22, whatever. Call it. Right? These are the three ego states. Now, how the transaction works? Transaction, like I said, is an exchange of two strokes between two people. One stroke is called the stimulus. Suppose I'm saying something to you right now, it is stimulus. How you are going to respond to it is called response. Right? Sometimes transaction get crossed or are ulterior, causing misunderstanding and communication to break down. Now, how do you think this happens? पहले वाला तो simple है. If I'm saying something, you're responding. But what happens if the crossed transactions are happening? Let me show you a picture. Yeah. So these crosses that you see. So suppose you are a parent. Your parent ego state is very high right now, and I am giving you responses from child ego state. That means the transaction is proper because parent-child ka combination works really well. Adult to adult, if it is happening, the communication, again, the responses are going to be really nice, the conversation are going to happen nice. Similarly, इस तरीके से parent-child का हो रहा है कि I am saying as a child and you are responding as parent. So these are called normal, proper transactions. What happens when I am a parent and you are responding to me as an adult? What is going to happen? I am talking to you from my parent ego stages. That means I'm giving you instructions. I'm nurturing you in that ways. I'm, being more protective about it. But you are being a logical, an adult. How will you respond? And do you think the transaction that happens between two people, the communication that is happening between two people with these two ego states will be successful?
Ma'am, it may be possible that there may be some chances of conflict because
Hmm.
because of the misunderstanding or any type of approach that the parent is having and the adult is having. It can be possible that they both are having the different approaches towards a particular thing.
Absolutely. So what will happen in such cases?
Ma'am, chances of conflict is there.
Right? So conflicts होंगे, झगड़े होंगे या grievances होंगे. So this is called crossed transactions that is happening, right? Now imagine parent और adult still थोड़ा सा better है क्योंकि दोनों adult है. Now you are a child, or I mean your child ego state is much higher, and then now you're talking to an adult ego state. How will the transaction happen? How does a child react to certain situation?
Ma'am, I think
Children don't. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Anushka.
I think the same condition will apply there also. If the child and adult are communicating, it might be possible that the child won't be understanding the approach of the adult. And
वो ठीक है, समझ आ गया हमें, वो तो हम कह ही रहे हैं कि नहीं होगा. But what happens? What exactly happens if suppose मान लो कि आपकी child ego state is more high, is more prevalent, right? More conscious when you're talking and you're dealing and you're doing transactions with people. What happens in those cases? What are the examples you can give for that? Do you have a friend or maybe somebody in your house or maybe you yourself where you talk, behave, still think like a child? क्या करते हैं child? What is so common about having a child in the house?
they are
And they
stubborn.
don't really take things seriously.
Hmm.
There's this stubbornness in them, and
Correct. Stubbornness
situ-
है. Hmm.
yeah, situations get very complex because they think that things are not really going according to them, or anything is not according to them, and that might lead in a lot of chaos. And they are sensitive as well, pretty sensitive with emotions, so
Hmm.
also leads to
And very quick in changing the emotions, right? Immediately
yeah.
रोना भी आ जाएगा and then they'll change and start smiling if you give them something, whatever they like. So this is
So
how
they
things
can be
can
pretty
go.
unpredictable, man.
Correct. Rigid, predictable and unpredictable and all that हो गया. Now imagine now you're working in an organization and your child ego state is very high. How are you going to react to situations and transactions happening with your managers, with your peer groups, with your juniors? मान लो मैनेजर भी बन गए चाइल्ड ईगो स्टेट के साथ. यूजुअली थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट होता है, बट चलो मान लेते हैं कि बन जाते हैं. People have other competencies, they have qualifications and all. Now imagine a manager whose child ego state is so high. What is the kind of interaction he'll be having? And the people under them is more adult ego states. Just imagine,
Ma'am,
think of it.
I think they won't be able to set barriers and communicate the way they need to be. Like
Hmm.
the leadership won't really come, won't really be existent. And I think the other person can overpower them and change their opinions very quickly.
Yeah.
So aims or objectives cannot be standardized according to them, and it will often lead to them being just a puppet, we can say. I'm sorry
Hmm.
for using that word, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think they
that's true.
cannot stand, they cannot hold a personality or a stand for themselves, and someone can use them for their own purpose.
That too again depends on if the child has been like that. If the child has been very stubborn and very clear about what they want, because some child becomes very smart in early ages also. So totally depends on what kind of child you have been in your childhood, what kind of things you have seen around you, where which has helped you create that kind of a personality trait in you. So imagine if such chaos is happening on a daily basis. And suppose, because we are right now talking about transaction analysis in terms of the interview, when you're talking to people, selecting them in the organization. Imagine now you get across somebody who has very high child ego state, and you from adult ego states are taking interview. How will you identify your child ego state first? Is that question, and then once you have identified, how are you and what are you going to do about it? How we generally find out about somebody's personality.
Through personality test
Mainly
or the
through
way they talk,
communication.
body language,
Yeah,
how they
body
reply to the
language,
questions.
correct. Body language and attention seeking behavior बहुत होगा child, right? You will have to take those cues, whatever they are talking, their body languages, the gestures they are using, and the kind of words that they are using, and especially the tone in which they are talking. Like I said, yesterday, though it was not
Yes,
really a joke
the
kind of a
words
thing,
that
that yeah, that people do not really grow up purely because of their privileged backgrounds, and this happens in organizations too much. You will find out a 50-year-old man still fighting with you because you are the HR manager and stating that मैं ये discipline नहीं मानता. Simply because They have been in their household like that. Right? So, and it would happen. मतलब common है ये तो बहुत ही common problem है with HR. It keeps happening. And why this keeps happening is purely because these people are still working with their child ego states, which has been very prevalent, that they have been very rigid in terms of understanding the rules and regulation of the household where they have been, nurtured, or they have been really, really a rebel child, or they have been really been beaten up by their parents, so their personality has shaped into like this. So different situations, totally depending upon what has happened. And that is the reason why transaction analysis, if used in therapies, have worked really well for people. Across the world over, this particular tool has been used because right now what we are studying is just the gist of it. The more in detail you go into each ego state takes so much of time to understand each transaction that is happening, each stroke that you are using in terms of what kind of words I'm using, what kind of body language is being used, how is my behavior attention seeking, how is my behavior logical, and then training yourself. How will you come out of it is where the question lies, right? Suppose you know, now you have understood that what is child ego state, what is adulthood, and what is parent ego state. Now, how will you change it if you want to? What would be ideal scenario? Any of these scenarios can be ideal, but the best part of being an adult to adult kind of a communication is what works best for the workplaces. So that has to be the idea is to bring everybody to this particular state where you are talking to them in an adult with logical mind, where you are present in looking at the situation which is in front of you very logically, understanding it through whatever experiences you have, and putting your logic to it without using any biases. In other two, generally there is always something. Control comes in when we are talking about parent, instruction comes in, and very child attention seeking, rigidness, stubbornness, things comes when you're talking in child ego state. So this is how transaction analysis works. Now coming back to this, looking at each of the what do you call it? uh, Personality traits that people develop from these ego states. These are the things that is written. So suppose parents can be either very nurturing or can be critical. There can be other types of parents also, but usually these two, or you will find
State.
a combination of them. Yeah, sorry, you were saying something, Jyotsna? You said something? Okay. So transaction analysis is how this works. So parent can be two. So
No, I was
critical
just
parents can be.
saying states. You were asking for the word for it.
Acha, okay. So critical parents basically works, monitors, adherence to rules, shoulds and must. These kind of things are there. Expectations of self and others and largely automatic. Automatic ही होना चाहिए. तो ठीक है. Right? Nurturing parents कैसे होंगे? Voice of unconditional acceptance. No matter what you do, we are there for you. Hope and optimism, lot of positivity given to the child in advance, the source of self-soothing and self-recognition. So these people create good child from the point of view that these child become very confident from the very start. They start recognizing their own talents and how they have to behave in public, in other places also. And then they have a self-realization that no matter what, my parents are here to back me up. So their chances of failures are really, really less when things are happening in the nurturing parent style. Now, what are the adults usually? Adults are basically the planner, the observer, the organizer, and analyzer, the part of self that can think logically and rationally and act accordingly. This is what people generally believe adults should be, and this is what the qualities of an adult would be when you are working from your adult ego states. Then child again can be two, adaptive and free child, depending upon if you had a critical parent, you can become any of these. So adaptive child can be the part of self that makes emotional decisions about self and the world based on past and present drivers, injunctions, biological and environment. कोई भी चीजें जो आपको प्रॉब्लम करी हैं, कोई भी trauma, कोई भी सिचुएशन जो आपके लिए डिफिकल्ट रही, whatever way you have adapted to that situation in your childhood, you have learned that style only to tackle all the situations that will come in your life. So this is how it becomes our personality trait. Then free child is spontaneous, emotive, creative, and in the moment part of the self. So this is again, if you are working from this free child ego state, then obviously things are very, very nice. And if you're working from nurturing parent state, again things can be really, really good. But again, if a nurturing parent is talking to an adult, things can still go wrong. It won't go wrong in that
Cross
manner, but it can,
communication.
yeah, across communication, but it won't really be that bad. Similarly, if child is free child ego state and they are talking to an adult, again things will not go that wrong. Because a free child is spontaneous, emotive, creative, an adult is very organized, planned, things that they have thought through about their future, everything is very clear in their mind. So thoda sa conflict hoga, but not too much. Right? So depending upon which area are we in and what kind of transactions we are doing, we can train people in understanding these things in a proper manner and then can react in a similar way so that they can learn over a period of time how not to behave in certain style. Because unconscious behaviors and biases are something that we have picked up so naturally, and it has taken a lot of time, a lot of space in our memory that we don't even realize when are we using it, right? I think we talked about unconscious biases little bit before. Unconscious biases basically comes automatically to all of us because we are human beings and we have to train ourselves so that you can really get away from these unconscious biases. What are the unconscious biases that we have usually? All the stereotypes, halo effects, all those things. So what is the common stereotype we generally grow up with? Anything in particular that you know of? Nothing? No example?
And what type of stereotype, like a black cat is
Any
pretty and a
stereotype we
white
are
cat
just
is
talking about. Stereotype is basically when you start generalizing things in a manner. You start
okay.
creating a kind of what do you call it? You start creating a kind of uh,
For,
image in
for
your mind
example,
about
like
something. Yeah, please.
it's known that people have the stereotype that women can't drive. Like if there's an
Yeah,
accident or something,
correct.
it's always a woman who's driving the car most of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is one of the stereotype which is there that maybe because of one or two women, people are saying, and if you correct it or if you see the data all across the world, maximum accidents happen by males. Maximum number of accidents.
I wanted to ask something.
Sorry?
I wanted to ask something.
Sure, sure, please.
Yeah. The thing is, that as you mentioned, like in this particular therapy, transaction analysis, we try to bring everyone closer to their adult state, right? Because that can be
Try
really
to.
considered as ideals.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then, like as we can see here, right, in the case of the parent state or the child state, there are certain like factors or
Hmm.
certain personality traits that can be very useful in the case of jobs and everything like
For
for
sure.
performing any sort of task. So, for example, like this adaptive child trait, right? Being very adaptive in nature, isn't that something also quite useful? So, and in the same case for a nurturing parent, isn't that trait also quite useful? So if that therapy is used to bring anyone in their parent state and in their child state towards the adult state itself, then like would that not be losing out on some critical and very important personality traits that might be helpful for them?
See, personality traits is a very different thing than what we are talking about. Personality trait is something that we generally keep showing in our personality. These are ego states means that they are always heavy in your brain when you're taking any decisions or you're doing any analysis of anything that is happening in front of you. Now imagine yourself that you are in an office, right? You are in a workplace, you are working like a normal adult, right? You are completely an adult child state. sorry, adult ego state.
Yes.
Now you have somebody, maybe your manager, who is a nurturing parent ego state, right? For how long you will accept protection, hope, optimism. You will like it for certain time period, but over a period of time, because you're adult, you will not like the reactions that will come from your managers in terms of
People become overbearing.
being overprotective, overthinking about you all the time. So all that will become a difficult trait for that particular person over a period of time, then changing from ego state to personality trait and showing that they are always in control of you, no matter what, because it's a parent ego state. Nurturing है so what? But है तो parent ही ना. How the parents
What,
behave.
what about the adaptive child state? If someone's in their child state and they're more inclined towards being
Very
adaptive.
bad. Just imagine you taking instructions from everybody, whosoever is coming in your life.
It's not just adapting to situations, but also like
Yeah,
adhering to everyone.
around everything. Yeah. It's like, whatever you tell me, no matter what environment in, I'll get myself adjusted. So a lot of compromises will happen in that ego state. And such kind of compromise is not good for the long term. That is why we say that adult is the best. But yes, everybody cannot be in that ego state. It takes time for a body or a mind to get trained to really behave in that manner. But over a period of time, we generally learn. People automatically learn also. When they see, and when you're working in an organization for any workplace for 3, 4 years, you start observing people and how they work and they react and do things. Automatically, we start picking up those things from people. So that's when our adult ego states also start getting nurtured properly. But usually, as I said, if there is a relationship, for example, between a manager being critical parent or nurturing parent and the team worker being free child, adaptive child, still it will work good because this has worked for I mean how many years? When you as a child has been given a proper parenting by your parents, you will obviously like it, right? So this will work for sure. But then, how can a child ego state develop to be a great leader is a very difficult situation. So this is how. That is the reason why. Yep. Understood? Works. Now, इसी के साथ ही he has created something called life scripts. Life scripts are basically how we generally use this transaction analysis in our day-to-day lives. Usually, it is for the dysfunctional behavior in people where they show too much of any kind of ego state, especially child or parent. Right? Parent still chal jata hai because again, as I said, it's an adult ego state. Child ego states, if you have too much of in you in the workplaces or even at home after you have reached a certain age, it becomes very difficult for you to survive. For example, everything, imagine you are blaming somebody, you are crying so much, your emotions are not in your balance anytime. You are either showing happiness too much or you are crying too much. Like yesterday, we were talking about somebody crying in the office all the time. That was from this particular thing that, his child ego state were always so high that he never used to learn or he had never understood how I have to behave in these workplaces. Right? So this is how life scripts basically work. Unconscious life plan derived from early experiences that govern the way the life has taken me out. Right? So these are life scripts. अब इसके बाद आ जाता है आपका what is the importance of understanding these ego states. So to help a person to choose to be in a particular inner state instead of just allowing the current ego state to dominate feelings, attitudes, and behavior, changing the life scripts, replacing organizational or societal scripting with cooperative, non-violent behavior is the aim of other applications of transaction analysis. Right? The aim is to, this is majorly for the therapy that he has written, not really for the interviews kind of a thing, because he never thought, Eric Byrne did not create this tool for interview purposes. But over a period of time, when a lot of HR people thought that, it's a very great theory and great way of making people learn about how to take and conduct interviews when you are dealing with different kind of ego states. When you're dealing with people, you start understanding. See, once you have understood this entire concept of PAC, right, transaction analysis, now every time when you are going to talk to somebody, especially in workplaces, you will start observing these people through these three ego states all the time. You will start picking up cues. ये automatic आएगा अभी हमारे अंदर, जैसे जैसे आप आगे बढ़ते जाओगे. If you are going into the practice of we started doing मतलब in college when we were studying about this thing, we started actually finding out things in each other. So we used to get group assignments a lot on these particular areas, and we started understanding each other so well purely because we were using it on a day-to-day basis. And some of us became so obsessed with this particular tool. So now I'm getting those memories back when I'm talking about this right now. That we used to actually do this. कहीं पर भी बैठे हैं, कैंटीन में भी बैठे हैं, we used to actually talk कि वो कैसे behave कर रहा है. So this is how. So it became part of the gossip, but yeah, but ultimately, it changes the way you are now looking at people after this, and you start observing. With that, your personality also gets affected a little bit, right? You become much more aware of where you are sitting, how are you reacting in situations, whether your child ego states is actually becoming too prevalent right now, is it required or not? So you start questioning yourself as well in certain situations, which is an ideal thing to do, so that your observations, your communications, your analytical skills over a period of time becomes much more stronger and much more robust. So this is the whole idea of why these particular tools are being used. Now, this is an exercise related to this. Just try and understand this and let me know what do you think, which sentence or which statement that is here written here is from which adult ego state. Sorry, which ego state. The first one is I can't get the project completed on time because marketing never gives us the information. They are just a pain in the neck. Now imagine somebody saying that. So what is the ego state he or she is talking about?
Child
Child, right? Clear, है ना? So what is wrong here? What are they trying to do?
They're
trying to
trying
push off
to
the responsibility onto other people, like someone else,
Correct.
not accepting their own fault.
Absolutely. So it's a clear blame game that they are doing. So now you have understood how people behave. Because अभी तक तो हम reactive की बात कर रहे थे, but see, this is how things change when you're working in a team atmosphere. When there are other team members also working on a similar project and same organization doing a similar kind of thing, and imagine somebody becoming so much of a problem for you. He or she doesn't do the work themselves, and they keep blaming the entire team for not getting the things done. How difficult it becomes for the other team members. Too much of difficulty comes, a lot of conflict. Second is listen, get ready to drop the client now and get on with customers who will actually give us business for change.
parent. That's about the parent, I think.
Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Parent or adult?
I guess
Parents.
parent.
Parent, complete, sure.
And I think it's adult because it shows a little bit of the controlling behavior of parents, like how authoritative they are. But at the same time, it seems very logical. Like they just want to get to work and make things possible. They don't want to go through the hurdles. So I think it's
Yeah. Again, the words you'll have to pick up what is written here, right? Or how people are speaking about it. Generally, parents, when they are in instructive mode or overprotective mode, what kind of languages are they using? What kind of words for communication they use? Similar thing is happening here. Adults would always call for uh, what do you call it? More transformational based kind of a dealing, or more dynamic dealing, in the sense that they will ask you for your
All for different
suggestions,
things.
recommendations, come and join me types, things like that. Logical. Listen, get Fred to drop matlab instruction direct straight away. So it's a parent ego state. What is problematic with this particular sentence? What is wrong here?
The extremely authoritative kind of behavior, being very controlling,
Now,
as
if you
if
have to
you
change
should
it
do it right
to
now.
if you have to change it to adult ego state, how will you change this same thing? How will you say it?
Maybe I can turn it into a question. Like, how about we get Fred to drop that particular client since they are not giving us business as much and focus on other people.
Yeah, right. So it changes. I understood. Third is we have been affected so badly by COVID that I don't think we will ever be able to get back to how things were. No company would thrive under these conditions.
Child state. Mm-hmm.
Child state.
क्यों child state है?
Ma'am,
What
because
makes you
it's a
say that?
pessimistic type of a sentence. If an
Hmm.
adult would have said that, it won't sound that much pessimistic.
It's not sounding that logical, right? How would
Yes, ma'am.
adults should be talking.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So some child which has seen difficult situations in their childhood, and because they have understood that everything is pessimistic around. This is that problematic child state, ego state. Now, so we have covered all the issues we are facing now, and we are clear on what challenges we must deal with first. Let's discuss who is going to take charge of the short-term issues and then come to a decision on how we ensure we don't get into this situation again. Agreed?
Adult.
It's adult.
This is that, right? Very consensual, very concerning. Also taking everybody together and taking a decision. Nothing, no authoritative, no childhood thing that is being shown. Last one. What resources can I provide to help you become more successful? Can I get someone to assist you on the project, or do you just need more time?
Ma'am, it's adult ego state.
Can be parent also, nurturing parent.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Can be both.
More
Ma'am,
than
but they
adult.
are not.
Yeah, please carry on.
In this sentence, they are not really so showing like they want to say something. They are just asking for suggestions, and it seems they are too soft with it.
Hmm. But still, there is a recommendation that is coming, right? Can I
Yes.
get someone to assist you?
So could it be possible that they might be influenced by both the adult and the parent
It
state?
can be. Sometimes the adult ego states also show these kind of things, but
Like,
usually they won't give you suggestions which can look very authoritative. They will give you suggestions and recommendation where it would say that, okay, let's do this together. Let's try doing this. Or how do you think about this option? Will this work for you more better than what you're doing right now? So things like that would be used more.
so it cannot be like they complement each other and have a balance. There must be one of the states that would
It
is
can
going to
happen.
dominate.
See, the balance totally depends upon who is on the other side. Right? Good transaction will happen when you are dealing with people. So, like, if your parent ego state is really, really high, and the other side with whom you are doing a communication or transaction is the person with high child ego state, it will work very smoothly. It will work best till the time any one of them realizes that something is really wrong in terms of doing this relationship for a very long term period.
Okay.
Right? Imagine, चलो ये एक बार हम वर्क प्लेसेस को छोड़ के देखते हैं. Just imagine, you've seen marriages closely, right? At home, maybe your sisters, brothers, or parents, or grandparents and all. यहाँ पर सबसे ज्यादा एग्जाम्पल्स मिलते हैं इनके. I mean, I started noticing my parents so much after this. Yeah. So think from that perspective. How two people survive a good marriage, keeping in mind these transactions that is happening. So if it would be parent, two ego states, then it would be good. If there would be adult to adult, it would be good. If it would be child to child, again, it would be good. Parent to child will also work. Child to parent will also work. These kind of transactions will work really best. So if imagine just an example, hypothetically, say your mom is more with child ego state. She's like, love being nurtured, love being given instructions, taking instructions, being adaptive. All those things are there. And your father is more parent, ego state. Right? The relationship will work very smoothly. unless somebody realizes over a period of time कि ये ठीक नहीं जा रहा है, right? This is how things changes in relationships. इसीलिए कहते हैं कि when two adults meet together anywhere, whether it is professional relationships or personal relationships, the things goes really well because your adult ego states are being developed properly. इसीलिए हम कहते हैं कि when a personality is being developed for a child up to an age of 7 or 8 years, it is really important to give them the best kind of nurturing. They should be kept very, very positive, very optimistic, very hopeful, giving them the best of the situations, but also not giving too much of instructions. Let them fall if they are falling. Don't spoon fed them, right? Let them be nurtured in a way so that they become a very independent and better human being tomorrow, thinking from that particular thing. So there is no parent style which is very, very creative, but understanding that this child has to turn into an adult tomorrow. And after they have become an adult, it would be very difficult for them to survive if they are too dependent on certain people in their life, right? So giving them the independence. So, for example, now across the nation, what is the major problem? Instead of cooking being a life skill, it has become a gender-based role in maximum household, especially in India, Indian context. Why? Suppose a boy, there are majority of the time, these are boys who go out of the home to survive all by themselves, right? Whether it is a hostel or PG or for work, whatever things. And still we are not teaching them a basic skill like cooking. So they are dependent on whom? Either on a maid or a PG or, restaurants or somebody else always. So is this a right scenario to actually live in? So this is basically the child ego state which has been taken care of by the parent, and they never thought that a boy should be given that kind of a training. Slowly things are changing now over a period of 7 years, last few years. People have started taking it very seriously as a life skill, and that is why it is being trained to everybody. Imagine all the best of restaurants, hotels have male chefs. Why it is a gender-based role at home? Why only moms are being used for cooking? You are not well, mama ye bana do. You are happy then, mama ye bana do. Why it can't be papa ye bana do? So these things comes from these ego states that has to change. That will because basically form a personality which will become very difficult for anybody to get adjusted to. अब इसी के साथ आती हैं life positions after the scripts and transactions. If you've understood, there is life position which 4 life positions that Eric Byrne talks about. He says then once we have overcome this thing, we have learned that we want to develop adult ego state. Now comes these 4 positions, life positions where we are in, where we generally feel and we react to that I am okay, you are okay. How is that situation where you always feel that I am okay and you are also okay?
In the state,
No, generally, suppose wherever you are, you always feel about anybody that I am also good and he is also good or she is also good.
when we are too optimistic and gullible, we think that just because we are happy and fine, the whole world should be like.
So why not? What is wrong with thinking that? There is something wrong in that.
Yeah, but yeah, because a lot of times even we don't know ourselves clearly, and there might be some underlying stress or trauma that we are not even aware of, and everyone is going through some hardships in their life. So it's just the degree is different, but I don't think anyone is completely happy and just doing just fine
It's
in their
not
life.
about happy. No, here you're getting me wrong. It's not about happiness. It's about suppose you're working somewhere in a workplace, right? And you want to utilize these situations. So in a situation that you are in, you always feel good about the things that, okay, I am always good. I'm always right, whatever you want to use it here. And the other person who I'm dealing with is also similar. Same. छोड़ते हैं इसको अभी नेक्स्ट पे आते हैं आई एम ओके एंड यू आर नॉट ओके हाउ गुड इज दैट You always say that, huh? This is what you believe in, that I am okay, but other
There
person is not okay.
lack self-confidence, so I'm not really
Yeah, overconfidence and child ego state also prevailing somewhere. Okay, let's move forward to the third one. I am not okay and you are okay.
Ma'am, it's about uh, the pessimistic thought or someone who is not confident in themselves.
Right? Very underconfident. They don't know anything about themselves. Something is hidden and which they have not really come across right now, or whatever the mind state is, that they are too negative and pessimistic. Always. Now, moving to the fourth one, I am not okay and you are not okay. How is that?
it's a complete negative approach.
What happens in complete negative things? This is the stage when people become society. They lose complete hope on themselves, on people. There's no one in their life to understand them, and this is when the things start getting into problematic situation. Right? So now if comparison is to be made, which one is the best? I'm okay and you are okay. Why not think that way? Is that okay? If I'm teaching something good, I personally feel that Jyotsna is picking up things, Anushka is also picking up, Devanjana is also picking up things. Isn't it the right situation to think of? Why think that I am okay, I am giving my best, but ये लोग नहीं समझ रहे, right? I am
Ma'am,
not okay,
can we
शायद I am not giving them best. They are much more better than me. Imagine for a teacher, what kind of situation it would be. Imagine for a manager, what kind of situation it would be if they keep thinking, I am not okay and everybody else is okay. So that is why it is called life positions, that when you are in a position where you have to make certain decisions or dealing with people, these are the things that can be taken into mind and consideration. Usually it is being taught in this manner, using this picture. This is the matrix that has been created, again by Eric Berne. I am not okay, jahan prevalent hai, you will see I am not okay with me is more prevalent. I am not okay and I am okay. There are two situations. You are okay with me. That means that I am okay and I am okay. I am okay with me. That means there is a probability that you are in self-love. You understand. You are looking after yourself really well. See, things are changing now. We are talking about self-care and self-love, so many things. Why are we talking about these things? A lot, especially after COVID, things have changed. People have started saying that, and actually, this is what we have also learned in meditation, spiritualism also, that if you are not confident, you do not have anything in you. How can you give it to somebody else? So imagine there is, if you are talking about love or optimism, if you do not have it in you, how can you pass it on to anybody else? It's not just in personal life, in professional life also. In professional life also, one can really survive. You will see people. But I'll give you a very obvious example. See Ranveer Singh, not very talented in terms of his acting skills and all, but look at his energy levels, how he takes things, right? Always in high energy, very optimistic, very hopeful. All the time he's like that. And what had is turned out to be very successful for him, because the more energies, the kind of things that you will keep yourself, you always feel that he's okay all the time, always, no matter wherever you see him. And similarly, what he attracts also in his life is similar things. In past, the similar example has been Akshay Kumar. No matter what, छोटी birthday parties में, छोटे dance वाले में, कहीं भी चले जाता था वो, right? He used to go actually because he used to believe that earning money has been, bestowed upon me as a blessing, because they have seen their childhood, which was not really that great, and so they knew that money making is not really an easy task. So whatever opportunity is coming, I'm not going to neglect that. Right? Similar situation is with Shah Rukh Khan. Right? How he came across somebody completely an outsider in the film industry, where people are right now talking about nepotism, but he came into that industry and he's now ruling that industry. Just imagine, last year his pictures were so okay. If you go and look into the pictures in detail, Pathan and Jawan and all that, not really very great performance, not really that great movies which he used to create before. But still, people were really mad about going to the movie theaters, and the business started happening purely because he came back to the industry. Why I'm giving you this example is because everybody sees them, right? You won't see that. Similarly, now look into the celebrities who are in professional setups. Anybody, any motivational speaker that you know of, or anybody who works in an organization that you know of, people who have become successful overnight. Why have become successful is purely because they always feel that I am taking care of myself, I am learning, I am giving myself opportunities, and that's when. And they always see good in other people. And there is nothing wrong when you're looking all the good things in other people. आपको ब्लेम करने वाले बहुत मिल जाएंगे वर्क प्लेसेस में भी, पर्सनल लाइफ में भी आपको नीचे उतारने वाले भी मिल जाएंगे. There are people who are pulling your leg all the time in your college, universities, teachers, a lot of people. They will keep coming, giving, commenting, or keep telling you that you're not really good. But once you start looking at only the good things, see, good and bad is there in everybody. You all know that negative, positive exist. Right? So all that negative, positive exist in everybody. So why are you looking at only the negatives? Why not look into the positives for the people? When you're in a position in workplace or in your personal life where you are given that job to correct what is not correct in other people, then you can obviously do this job of making them understand that okay, you are not okay, but you have to now become okay. Right? That will also happen. So training, trainers, good teachers, all these people are basically those where they help other people, stating that from you are not okay stage to you are okay stage, you will have to come. Like you will see, there is in this particular matrix only one stage is green. All other three stages are red. Why it is so? Sorry,
They're
just give
not
me another.
ideal.
Just think of it. Just give me 1 minute. Huh? Phone. Yeah, sorry. Yep. So why do you think why it is green? I'm okay, you're okay, healthy position, and why other positions are not? And we call them this. In these life positions in transaction analysis, we call them I'm not okay, you're okay is one down position. Inferiority complex clearly being shown. I wish I could do that as well as you do. People are always talking about these things. Right? I'm not okay, you are not okay is a hopeless situation, terrible. People will not do anything. We will not be able to make it. Always hopeless. These are the people who actually do not grow ever in workplaces also and in personal lives as well. Then I am okay and you're not okay is again not good. It's a very superior position that you think you're always in. That superiority complex is again not good. So you're not doing that right. Let me show you. Right? It can work in situation when you are a leader and you're planning to change people who are not okay. But again, the ultimate thing is to bring them up to a level where you can say that I am okay and I'm teaching you how to be okay. That's where. Here we are making good progress now together. Right? Again, adult to adult, ego state is where we work. So both the things come in combination, the life scripts and transaction analysis and positions, it says that there is a balance that needs to be there in the way that we are dealing with people, the way we are communicating, the way we are taking interviews and adapting to situations. We have to learn how to come to this particular thing. right? So now the example is that suppose you become an HR manager tomorrow in an organization. How will you help somebody overcome these situations where they are not in ideal situation? Both in transaction analysis also and here in life positions also. What are you going to do? Think of it.
I mean, life positions, motivation would do positivity, and we can try to show them the bright side of things. So, if they are in the pessimistic viewpoint, and they can, if they are like too full of themselves, like I am okay, you're not okay, we can try to make them understand the situation and how the ideal situation could be, where we both can be on equal positions. That's
और बाकी situations पे? Okay, how many of you want to become a good trainer or really like training and development as part of the HR?
I think everyone does. It's very crucial to know about ourselves, like self-awareness, and how we can use this to make people aware as well. Brings out
I
the
didn't
best
get,
in them.
I didn't get you much here. Yeah, you have to explain that to me.
So through the scenarios,
Yeah, carry on.
I'm asking, do I have to explain through scenarios?
Anything. मतलब I didn't understand what you said, the statement. So if there's an example you can give. Anushka, Devanjana. Devanjana, you are studying psychology. What do you think of
Yes.
this? Yeah. How will you use this in your
But
psychology?
which particular life position?
Anyone. I'm talking about in general. Transaction
See,
analysis also in life position. How do you think you will utilize this to understand human beings more?
utilize it to understand others more.
Sorry, again, I could not hear you.
I'm sorry.
I could not
Yeah.
understand what you said. Yeah, your voice was not coming through.
Sorry, ma'am, I'm actually out of stations. Stations and the connectivity isn't very good. 2 minutes.
Hmm. So I'm saying, how will you utilize any of these tools for your human connections, making human connections better?
How will I utilize this particular thing? Sorry, ma'am, could you please let your voice is breaking?
Simple question hai. How will you understand? How will you ensure that these tools are helping you out in understanding human behavior better?
Ma'am, see, इसमें तो as Jyotsna mentioned before, self-awareness create होता है बहुत ज़्यादा.
Hmm.
First, if I categorize people in these particular sectors, then the person can be very extremely self-aware, like उनका कहाँ पे problem हो रहा है या फिर where they may be lacking, है ना? And in positions such as I am not okay, you're okay, it is important to let them know that they are not lacking anywhere, है ना? Not lacking anywhere, but they are not the ones who are lacking all the time, right? So in these cases, quite a few times, what can be done is if they come in terms with people who may in a way be worse than them. ठीक है, if and they शायद उनको कुछ टास्क दिया गया which they complete in a very well way, है ना, बहुत अच्छे से उन लोगों ने उस टास्क को कंप्लीट किया, then we
Hmm.
उनको उनको हम लोग praise करेंगे, right? We make them understand कि देखो, you have the capability to do things,
Yeah.
hence it's not necessary to believe that you're lacking in any way from other people, है ना? तो इस वाले sector में we can figure that out. Now, in the hopeless position is the hardest position, because in this like इस sector में क्या हो जाता है ना, everyone goes into a very depressive state. So they might fall into a pattern where they feel like nothing is going to work out. So that is the hardest position. I'm not sure how to bring them out of it, but the like basic चीज जो हम कर सकते हैं is motivate them in all ways possible, है ना? Motivate them in the same way as previously मैंने जैसे mentioned किया, we can like anoint them a task, right? And if they do manage to do it well, then they themselves will understand that it's not as hopeless as it all seems. Maybe they can be involved in a team where their other team members are working very well. So along with that, they also get a sort of inspiration and a sort of motivation कि things are working out well. So hopeless position से निकालने में this can be something that can be used, है ना? टीम में अगर डाला जाए लोगों को, then they can come out of a lot of ऐसे hopeless attributes and all that. And
How?
in this factor,
Suppose somebody is very depressed. I mean,
हाँ,
they have a problem now. Let's call it a depression,
हम्म,
right? This is when it happens. When you start
हम्म,
feeling this hopeless situation, that you are not okay with me, I'm not okay with myself. Both the things are happening together. So suppose there is a very depressed candidate or a colleague that you have, and you put them into a team to work with other people. Do you think that will work
uh,
out?
I'm not sure if it's going to work out, but what I feel like it may work in some instances. Suppose this particular person is quite depressed. He has lost all hope. कि उनको लगता है that they are not worthwhile in any way. And we like willingly put them in a team that is very motivated. A team that has already worked very well. वो लोग बहुत ज्यादा motivated है. वो लोग almost वो जो depressed person है उसके opposite है. They are
Hmm.
very enthusiastic in everything, है ना? So
Yeah.
in a team of 10 people, है ना, अगर मैं if I put in that one hopeless person into a team of other 9 people who are so extremely motivated, है ना, हर रोज आ रहे हैं, energetically they are working, I feel like there is like बहुत कम ऐसे होते हैं that they will not themselves fall into that that kind of a situation. वो surrounding से they are gonna get they are gonna change. धीरे धीरे slowly slightly changes आएंगे. हाँ, there can be a backdrop. वो क्या करेंगे, they might bring the team down to a certain extent, but if it's a team of like a big number, तो फिर I don't think that they can bring down the team for a very long time, because there's a lot of other people who are extremely enthusiastic about working, so they will also slowly change, they will also slowly flow in that same manner.
But it doesn't happen that way. Sorry to say that.
So,
When people are depressed, they are depressed. Yeah. It doesn't matter to them whether things are happening. They are in the group of 10 people, they will show happiness. Like, I'm not sure how much you know about depression as a disease or as a problem, mental problem, but
and
people
I
who
mean,
have
there are
been,
sectors, there can be mild and there can be severe. The people who are severely
yes,
depressed, they need therapy. They cannot be, उन लोगों को workspace में they are not like eligible
absolutely.
enough to properly
Even
work in a
mild
workspace.
depression can turn into a drastic situation if they are put into
If
too
not
much of a
treated well.
happiness. Yeah. So first is the treatment in terms of not just the therapy, but the medications. Right? So for example, if you have a physical injury in your body, what will you do? Any physical
Obviously, we'll
injury or
heal
any
that
disease.
first.
Yeah, or any physical diseases that you get. Can be, जुकाम है, खांसी है, कहीं पे aches हैं, pains हैं. What you do? You will go to a
Can be,
doctor to show. Yeah, Anushka, sorry, you were saying something?
ma'am, actually, I was having a power cut, so I couldn't understand what's the context of this discussion.
We're just discussing that how will we deal with different people
Okay,
once you
ma'am.
become an
Different
HR
people's,
manager, yeah, or
different
wherever you
people's
are,
having
how will you?
the mental diseases.
If somebody has a depression,
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
yeah. So suppose it's somebody is with physical injury or physical diseases that happens in our body, they go to the right kind of a doctor for that. If it is heart related, they will go there. If it is orthopedic, I mean related to bones and all, they'll go to that particular doctor. But when it comes to mental things, why do we take it so lightly? Why do we believe that, people will become automatically changed without taking the right medicines or medications or therapy or whatever healings that, the psychologists use? I mean, you as a psychologist should not be saying that, to be honest, right? I'm
Medications, I would never support the idea of medications as well. See, as I said, first you need to go through psychotherapy. You then it's gonna be determined कि आपका depression किस level
hmm.
पे है. If it's
There
not
is no
severe,
test, in India or anywhere right now, there is no test which can determine how severe is your depression. That's the very
I
sad
mean
stage.
standard.
Yeah.
There are standardized tests जो कि
Hmm.
आपके डिप्रेशन को मेजर कर सकता है. They are not always very accurate, but they
Correct.
are well enough to determine कि आपको मतलब are you in intense need of medication or not. Medication तभी आता है when there is a actual opportunity of self harm, और self harm हर एक डिप्रेशन के स्टेजेस में नहीं आता है. So medication and ये
Hmm.
mental disorder के medication क्या होता है, a lot they have excessive side effects, बहुत सारा side, and these are very addictive also. So medications usually अगर
Correct. Even
आपको
I
इस
agree on that
yes,
medicines are very addictive, and even I don't believe in taking those things. But somewhere, at certain point, we will have to help them out with the medications initially, just in order to
if
understand and give them the therapy.
if I'm not wrong, like organizations में होते हैं, right? Psychologists,
Yeah.
organize industrial organization psychologists होते हैं, right? So I
Yeah.
guess in these cases, these persons like they must be sent to the psychologist first, और वो लोग शायद अपने according कोई psychotherapy mention करेंगे, and
इंडिया
then
में
whatever
नहीं
has
है.
works out.
Problem is this. See, in our acts, it is written that some psychologists should be there in the universities, education places, and the workplaces as well, but it is not practically implemented. Outside India, it is much, much better. There are
अभी
psychologists who
लेकिन
are
गवर्नमेंट
available.
सेक्टर्स में होना स्टार्ट हो गया है, in
अब
the
start
government
हुआ है,
sectors
right? They have
start
started
किया.
doing that. Some private organizations are doing good, giving it as a benefit, especially after COVID. People have been going through this. But I tell you, not one example, I've seen 4, 5 people very closely, workplaces maybe, and in the family scenarios also, where the determination of depression could not be found out till the very last stages, right? Till the time they actually lost hope in
Finding the
living the life.
determination is very
Yeah,
hard.
it did not come. Even with the doctor's help and everything, it did not come. They were laughing, they were behaving very normally when they were in groups, in family atmosphere, everywhere, and suddenly one of them committed suicide. And that's
And
when people
that's what happens
realize,
in secret places.
yeah. So you never know, you never get to know. Depression is something which is very, very different than stress and anxiety. And people tend to generally take one step, uh, think that, stress and anxiety is what depression is all about. It is not. So that's just an
Right.
awareness. And this hopelessness situation, I started believing in this only when I realized that that person committed suicide purely because he reached that stage of I'm not okay and you're not okay. Right? Lately, when we were just talking about in our friend circle, we were just talking about him, and then we started finding out, yeah, ye kehta tha wo, and we did not really pay attention to those things. Maybe because we were not that close, or whatever the reason was, but yeah. So, lately you get to know about the situations that people are dealing with, but over a period of time, you won't realize because they are laughing with you, they are eating with you, they are sitting with you. In the normal situations, you won't know how much they are crying during the night, how much depressed are they actually, why they are not liking certain things. You won't get to know because there are no specific reasons why depression happens.
Very
Right?
true.
People as successful as Deepika Padukone is facing depression, there is no particular reasons for that. And I don't know whether how to identify that. People say it so. She's been trolled for this thing for so long that she has everything and still she has depression. Imagine how can you make such statements like that without understanding the disease properly. भाई, it's like
Exactly.
saying that कि आपकी bone टूट गई है purely because आपने कुछ गलत किया हो, है ना? So
Completely
this is
different
what,
instances, and people kind
yeah.
of
So
confuse
uh,
what it
def-
is about.
absolutely. So depression should not be taken into very light consideration even at workplaces. Like I told you, again, an example. एक था जो हमें हमेशा धमकी देता रहता था, I'll commit suicide, and he was actually a patient of depression. Childhood trauma तो था ही, child ego state developed थी, but depression was also there. And this is what happens when you start, when you start working in organizations, what you are not, and you have to depict or show it to the entire world that you are, without having self-awareness of who you are. That's when these tools are really helpful. These tools are helpful, like you all said, that it is good to know, be aware of what you are as self, and then ensuring that how you are developing yourself in workplace, how you are reacting in workplace, is actually in tandem with what is required. Right now, what happens? I'll tell you very open cases in workplaces, because we are in HR, so everything comes in front of us. A lot of youngsters comes from tier 4, tier 3 cities. They come and they get really, really amazed by metro cities, how things are freely flowing. The freedom is much better. Now there's no parental control directly, so they can do whatever they want to do. So things start changing from that. What they are not meant to, their nurturing has happened in a very, very different manner, right? Because I'm also from tier 3 city, tier 4 city, so I know how the nurturing happened. And once you reaches metro cities, it's obviously a different state altogether, very different. In terms of people you deal with, जो दिल्ली में ही पढ़े हुए हैं या मुंबई में ही पढ़े हुए हैं, they are much more independent, they are much more free in terms of their thought process and the way that they deal with things. And you become so impressed with all that that you start dealing with certain things which are not required. So you start living a life which is not meant for you, but just because somebody else is doing, so you start doing the replication of that. What happens then? Your ego state started getting clashes without having much more awareness of it, and you start getting into problems because you don't know what to deal with, how to deal with. You're just replicating somebody else, right? So this is when the problem starts getting in. Depression का major reason वहां से आता है. When what we are not, we are just trying to show it to the world. Why to do that? So this I'm not okay and you're not okay is a situation very typically to be dealt with. Very difficult to understand. You have to take a proper training to understand and do this, and that's when you can understand and do things in the organization from that perspective. If it is just superficial, where people are just believing that they do not have the right kind of qualifications or knowledge, and that's when they are thinking that I am not okay and I believe that everybody is not okay, then this situation can be turned around, like what you said, Devanjana. But if it is coming from very deep ego states, then it cannot be turned around like what we are discussing. Then it has to go for a proper medication and whatever medical therapy suggests. Just that I wanted to state, right? Rest other things you can work on easily. Not easily, but it takes time to develop all those things as well. So this is how this tool is being used in interviews to understand what kind of candidates you are dealing with. You have to pick up the cues, you have to pick up the body language, you have to pick up the words that they are saying, understanding the statements. Obviously, not giving too much of time in understanding and doing this over a period of time. Once you have become aware of this, it will come automatically in your personality or the way you're dealing with it. It will become a habit, right? So that's when you will be able to become much more better evaluator or assessor or how you conduct interviews in a much more professional manner. And generally it is being uh, taken as, let's say, psychology की practice भी कैसे अच्छी जाती है ना, when they are practicing it on people. Actually, your theory is different, and when you're not practicing it on people, you won't learn much. So similarly, it is with this particular transactional tool. Any theory which is related to psychology is basically like that. You have to practice it. The more you practice it, the more you will be able to come out of, or you will be able to find more better solutions of how things can be handled in certain situations like that. Right? And suppose you have a candidate whose parent ego state is very high. How do you think you will tackle the interview? आपको इंस्ट्रक्शन देने लग गया इंटरव्यू में. कि आपका
ma'am,
क्वेश्चन पूछने का तरीका अच्छा नहीं है. Imagine somebody is telling you this. What will you do?
Ma'am, generally the type of candidates are not selected during the time of interview because if
देखो
they
पहले
are
से ये दिस इज अनकॉन्शियस बायस, ये नहीं होना चाहिए अनुष्का, यही हम बात कर रहे हैं. How can you decide? See, somebody can be really good in qualification, ना? Suppose चलो मान लेते हैं. If I am there, right? अब ना my qualifications, I am double MBA. SIBM, which is top institute, I am Ahmedabad top institute. Now I come as a candidate to you for interview. But
okay.
my child ego state is very high or my parent ego state is very high. मान लेते हैं, right? And I am giving you instructions during interview also. But you are looking at my qualifications, you are asking me HR related questions, which I answer really well. But the way I'm answering may be not correct. So will you select me or reject me?
Ma'am, I'll tell you to just improve the maturity level or something else that can be
How can you
beneficial for you.
how can you say it to the
I
candidate who has come for interview? No, I want to know how will you tell somebody? You're meeting for the first time, right? The candidate generally you are meeting for the first time. How will you tell somebody who is meeting you for the first time that their mental ego state is not correct?
uh, so ma'am, I can request you to just uh, do it more politely or to not
Yeah,
instruct.
suppose मान लेते हैं parent ego state है where I am giving you instructions that the question that you are asking is not right.
So I would be telling you that it might be possible that the questions are not right, but my intentions were not that towards you. So you can give me a proper answer to that, and I can somehow change my way of asking if somebody is not liking it.
Yeah, but then again, how you are behaving now in this situation, if you are saying this answer that you just gave me,
I'm behaving more politely in that way because the qualification are very good and the employee can be beneficial for the organization.
सोच के देखो. Anushka, oh sorry, Jyotsna, Debanjana, what do you think how Anushka is responding to this situation?
वो adaptive child state almost.
है ना? Adaptive हो गया. So it will work
हाँ,
really
करने
good
पे
for the
like
interview.
हम्म,
But do you think that would be the right and ideal thing to do when you know you are the interviewer, you have better knowledge than the person that you are hiring?
maybe not because you're giving an upper hand to the interviewee. They are
Yeah,
not supposed to be giving any instructions in such a scenario.
correct. They
No,
can
I'll
give
just
you
subtly put it.
suggestions. Yeah, but they
I'll
can't
give you
give you
suggestions, not
instructions.
instruct.
They can't get negative about you. They can be telling you that I did not understand your question. Can you rephrase it? Would be a better way than giving you an instruction, right? So यही छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं. See, this is why we are saying that the more you will participate in the discussions, why open up this discussion today? Why will you see that the PPT does not have too much of things today? Because it's a very participative, very discussion based kind of a topic. The more you will discuss it, the more you will relate with the examples, the more you will be able to learn from there. Correct. So that's how we will have to overcome these things. And there's nothing to feel bad about. If you start feeling bad about everything in the interview or anywhere, then again your child ego state is very high. An adult would not feel bad about certain things because they would be confident about themselves. Right? They would know what I am saying and what my preparation is. It's actually right. Correct? So this is how we'll have to start using these theories in a day-to-day manner. Anything on this topic? Any questions? I'll leave this PPT in the group today. I'll just have to add one or two more points here, some more things, and then I'll send it to you tonight. Uh, Next week, class is with Hardik sir. He will start a new topic on some other things. We might have a discontinuation on this topic. Whenever I'll start back the classes, then we will again take it up. By that time, maybe you can just go through it and do this. Right. Other than this, I wanted to give you the psychometric test ka tool. You can note down, or shall I share it in the group? This is free website which is called psychometrictests.org. But I find there was another one which was much better. I'll see if I can find it out. But this is also good. So psychometric tests, tsts.org has free test to try it on. You can try them out and you can see, just give an example of how people generally take test in the organization and assessment. Right? Again, to develop and to assess from psychological psychometric test or aptitude test or mental aptitude test, you need specific qualifications unless you have created something internally for your organization which is based on multiple tools. Some organization use a mental ability, attitude, aptitude test, mix of all these things, very customized to their requirements. For that, their HR managers and HR heads can really handle those things really well because they have developed the entire tool themselves. They have been part of developing it. But cases where you are actually using proper psychometric tests, like we spoke about yesterday, some of them, we didn't speak about them actually. Let me just take you through that. We still have 10 minutes time. I think we'll be able to do that. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are selection techniques we generally do use for that. So give a test work assignment, which is basically the kind of assignments that has been given where you are anything related to their functional knowledge you want to test. Suppose IT में है तो Python Java से है उनको programming का कोई test दे दिया. If they are from HR, you just give them a position to fill in or just ask them to write a proper job analysis in front of you, whatever. Right? You just ask them to do that so that you can check their work assignment and see whether the person has done really well or not. You can design these work assignments totally based on the kind of position you're hiring for. Then second is organize an assessment center. Now assessment centers are completely, this is what I'm talking about. These are all psychometric testing. These are the process that has been designed purely to check candidates' social, analytical and communication skills used through assessment centers. Right? Assessment centers आप पढ़ोगे इनके बारे में जब ये psychometric test देखोगे, you will see that some questions you won't even understand why you are answering, but their answers would be based on what unconscious bias or things that you have in your mind that is more reflective of. Sometimes we don't get to know. तो हम जोहारी विंडो जिसकी बात कर रहे थे वो हम करेंगे नेक्स्ट उसमें जब हम लर्निंग के बारे में या परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल में पहुंच जाएंगे तब. So Johari window states that there are things that we don't know about ourselves, which are hidden talent, and there are talents that are very commonly available and open that we know about ourselves. So this is how things change through Johari window, right? और उसका assessment करने के लिए then you need to take a proper certification and training into that courses. Then third is structure your interview process, which we have been talking about since yesterday. That the more interview process, the questions are structured, the better questionnaire that you prepare with the answers, what kind of answers you are anticipating, and to judge which skills, then you will be able to get through the interview really well. Peer interviews are very, very successful in the cases जहाँ पर situation based things बहुत होती है. For example, once you have taken the interview, you have understood what the person's roles and responsibilities, HOD of that particular department has also checked. Now, what the peers can help out in understanding and making them understand and ask questions on day-to-day challenges that they face. Right? Peer-to-peer क्या होते हैं? Suppose you are already an HR manager and we already have an HR manager. I mean, you are applying for an HR manager and we already have an HR manager. As an HR head, I have taken the interview. I have found your knowledge is perfectly fine, but day-to-day challenges, what an HR manager actually faces, the peer-to-peer interviews generally helps in that kind of scenarios. Next is check candidate references for sure. That's a selection technique. A lot of times the selection does not happen when the references does not come through as correct. and then host a job trial day. It's a very, very common thing which has started recently by many organizations. So they take permission and consent of the candidate before giving them offer letter and appointment letter and telling them that why don't you come to office for a day, see how the work actually is, spend time completely from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever the timings are, and do the job, and then tell us your decision whether you are really good to go. Or the company can also take a decision on the basis of that one day spent in the organization. So that gives a very fair assessment on how the person would be capable enough to do the job or not. Right? From the job candidate perspective, they will be able to get to know the day-to-day challenges that they come across in organization. Some positions which are very critical, where there are a lot of challenges, it becomes really, really helpful when they are making this particular thing part of the selection techniques. Then these are the tests that are there. So this psychometric test.org will give you certain areas where you can suggest and you can ask for what kind of test you want to undergo is assess cognitive ability. Generally, these are mental ability tests, mental aptitude tests, which are there. If you are cracking something like, if you're given some examples, some exams, competitive exams, like one of you was preparing for CAT, right? So CAT में cognitive ability या mental ability का बहुत बड़ा portion आता है, which is there to understand and see how your common mental ability in terms of understanding logical situations and things. Then evaluate learning agility, very important. Now, this is not really very difficult. You need to understand whether the person who you're hiring in the organization will have an interest in learning and improving themselves or not. Right? Again, certain questions and certain tests are there which can help you out in finding whether the person is really willing to develop themselves over a period of time, or they are too rigid, or they are completely restrictive to making any changes in their personality or the way they talk or whatever things that they are doing, right? So it basically works on learn, unlearn, and relearn. That logic is there. Then situational judgment test. Situational judgment test जो हमने STAR method में भी use करा कि anything that is related to the situation that has been very prevalent for the kind of position that you are applying for, and it is being dealt by the current people or the people who have taken that position in the past, then you can create certain tests on that basis, case studies, role plays, situational stimulus based kind of a cases, and then you can give that situation to the people to handle. रोल प्लेज हम बहुत करते हैं हायरिंग के टाइम पर, तो लाइक हमने कल इंटरव्यू वाला रोल प्ले किया था, सिमिलर थिंग्स वी क्रिएट अ प्रॉपर स्क्रिप्ट, that script is handed over to the candidate and we ask them to play a role. Say, offered with handling a difficult customer, if it's customer service, how are you going to manage the performance appraisal, whose situation may, anything related to the job that can be designed and given to them. Now, how will you measure employee integrity? Can you measure somebody's integrity? How honest some person is?
Ma'am, on the basis of their working or how much they are given towards the organization or how much they are working, completing their work on time, it can be the
हाँ, but
parameter.
that only once they have joined the organization. उससे पहले अगर आप किसी को हायर कर रहे हो, उससे आपने अपने नहीं देखा है कि वो कैसे काम कर रहा है. How will you judge somebody's integrity? What kind of question you
Ma'am, we
will
can
ask?
Ma'am, we can
Yeah,
ask if
Jyoti.
they worked previously somewhere, and if they did, we can ask why they left the institution or how was the experience there. Those answers can show us their approach and the mindset they have towards.
हो सकता है, but proper integrity को check कैसे करोगे? Somebody is really honest about their job or the work. How good ethically they are.
Ma'am, it can be measured on the basis of how
Can
they are
give them
giving
real
the
life
interview.
situations. कुछ integrity test में ऐसे होता है when like throw in a few real life situations in that particular questionnaire. है ना, जैसे कि
Hmm.
अगर आपने कभी when you walking and you saw a purse on the street, would you pick it up and then give it to the police station, or like what have you done? ऐसे kind of
Yeah,
instances.
correct. Yeah, Anushka, you were also saying something?
Ma'am, I was saying it can be judged on the basis of how they are coming for the interview whether they are on the time, whether they are well prepared, or whether they are
Hmm.
punctual towards their job. Means
See,
the giving
punctuality would be
example.
more of a discipline, है ना? इंटेग्रिटी कैसे होती है? अब सपोज कोई है आपके ऑफिस में, सब कुछ चीजों में अच्छा है, ब्राइब भी नहीं लेता है, काम भी बहुत बढ़िया कर रहा है, सब कुछ है, बट हर थोड़े दिनों में मॉर्निंग में आने का एक बहाना बना देता है कि मेरा टायर पंचर हो गया, कभी एक्सीडेंट हो गया, कभी कुछ हो गया. यू थिंक दीज पीपल आर रियली हाई इंटेग्रिटी?
No, ma'am.
पर हम सब करते हैं ना ये सब चीजें. It has become a very common. See, excuses देना और छोटे छोटे झूठ बोलना, which we think that is not harming somebody. Everybody does it.
So it is
And
showing
when I say
for
everybody, trust me, 95% people I've seen they do it.
yes.
And
And
we have
these are
also
the
done that. Yeah. Initial days we used to also do this.
that's only show how much we are punctual towards our job or how much integrity we are having towards the organization. That we are giving the excuses of lame excuses that we are giving towards our job. This shows our integrity.
वही पूछ रही हूँ मैं, does it really show the integrity? ये तो हमारा normal common human trait बन गया है. Can you really judge somebody from this? अगर मैं सिर्फ excuse दे रही हूँ आने के लिए, but my work is really great and I'm otherwise very ethical, very honest. है
Ma'am,
ना, dilemma
so
है ना सोचने के लिए.
yes, ma'am. Somehow we are lacking in the integrity towards our job if we are giving the lame excuses, despite the fact that we are good in that particular job. Means
Hmm.
if we are good in studies but we are not studying well, then there is no
Hmm.
any point of being good.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, it's a very diplomatic and very I mean, situations which can create a lot of dilemma in your mind, but you'll have to find out a solution for that once you become an HR person, right? You will have to decide over a period of time when you see that somebody is really a great performer, and over a period of time you see that their excuses of coming to office has been increasing. You have to take that tough decision that you have to go harsh on them, you have to give them some reprimand them on something, then you have to give them some punishment or whatever is there, right? Will not work. It can start with counseling, mediation, and then it can go to harsh them, right? So these are the decisions that people generally take, and that is why I say that measuring employee integrity is generally seen. People say a lot of different things. They come and prepare for interviews really well. You won't be able to get to know. People have now even thought of this idea of how to crack the psychometric test also. Some of them have become really, really good in understanding. But once you see them over a period of time in organizations performing day-to-day tasks, seeing them every day, doing things, then you realizes that your decision in terms of measuring integrity, learning ability, and all these things has gone wrong. That is the reason why organizations keep a probation period, time period, only to assess these things so that once you have even hired a person, you're still keeping them on probation, not confirming, so that you can ask them to leave as and when the requirements comes in, right? So that is also a part of it. Some organizations have 3 months, some organization has 6 months kind of probation period, depending upon what kind of organization it is, and that's when they decide. Right? So these are the selection techniques that is being generally used, and these are the things that is there in the psychometrictest.org website. Just take a look and do and try at least 1 or 2 tests yourself and see how you progress. It will give you an idea. They give you immediate evaluation also on your email ID. All right, so that's all from selection interview. So with this topic of talent acquisition is again not completely over. Onboarding is sometimes as a part of talent acquisition, sometimes we take it as a separate topic. So we will do onboarding separately after this, whenever we'll resume classes. And about the live job posting or a job that you want. If you're really willing to do that, I have the job now. I can post it in the group. I don't want to post it in the group actually. Would you be interested in doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll just give you a little brief about it. Also, although the JD and description is written really well, but just to give you an idea, it's a media company. They basically arrange and organizes conferences related to, especially for larger organizations, government organizations. So they are specialized in organizing conferences and events for UNICEF and United Nations largely. So what they require is a good client servicing person. Client servicing person is somebody who can deal with these kind of clients, which are UNICEF and United Nations largely, and then get the things done properly. So events कैसे होते हैं? Any idea how events are organized or conferences are organized? स्कूल कॉलेजेस में नहीं करा कभी खुद ऑर्गेनाइज कोई इवेंट, पार्टिसिपेटेड एज अ कमिटी मेंबर और समथिंग? क्या क्या लगता है कोई भी फेस्टिवल आप कर रहे हो और स्कूल में कॉलेज में, what all does it require? A stage, a background, banners and all that, proper chair arrangement and all, mic arrangements and all that, right? Food and snacks on proper timings and everything. That's all. Right? Again, because it is happening for UNICEF, so the quality would be different. The mic quality should not be going wrong anytime, anywhere. Conferences है और government related conferences है, so that means it's a serious affair. So there should not be any dancing and all that thing, which can be allowed in other event companies. So वो सब नहीं हो सकता है. It's a very professional setup. So hence the arrangement of whether it is a round table conference or whether it is a table tear kind of conference, all these things requirements has to be taken with the client. So client servicing person basically understand the entire requisition from the client, what are things which is required. So they do that and then they help operations team to organize things in a right manner so that जो हमने client से brief लिया या requisition लिया वो हमने देखा कि वो पूरा भी हो रहा है. इसके बीच में क्रिएटिव डिपार्टमेंट आता है जो डिजाइन करके दिखा देता है कि सेटअप ऐसा होगा ऑन ग्राफिक्स, समटाइम्स ऑन 3D, डिपेंड्स करता है कौन से क्लाइंट है, कितना बड़ा वो 3D में देखना चाहते हैं या सिर्फ ग्राफिक्स में चल जाता है. So then you show them the visualization of it as well. Right? So this is what client servicing person generally do. This is what you have to look for. We are requiring a client servicing person for this event company. I'll share all the details, what kind of things, qualifications and all that. It's not a very difficult position to hire. So you can do that. A lot of good people are around. But you can use that tool on LinkedIn and you can use. How many of you are on LinkedIn, by the way? You're there, Dibanjana? Active?
Yes, sir.
Jyotsna?
I have a connection with I think.
Not
You are?
really active, ma'am. I just have a profile.
Oh, okay. Anushka?
No, ma'am, I don't have a profile on LinkedIn. I was
फिर
thinking
कैसे
to create
करोगे?
it.
हाँ, so create now. See, LinkedIn, once you are now developing into a professional certification you're taking, LinkedIn becomes a very important thing for you to learn. रोज
Ma'am, I
वहां
will
पर
create it
कितनी
by
सारी चीजें
tomorrow.
हैं. हाँ,
I'll
create
create
whenever
it
you
within
get time
2 days.
and create a good profile where everything is mentioned. जो फोटोग्राफ से लेकर आपके बारे में brief जो है आपका about us section है, title that you are using should be really, really written well. Because that really attracts. Or try and change your profile every 3-4 weeks. जैसे आप चेंज करते हो ना प्रोफाइल, उसका अट्रैक्शन रिट्रैक्शन बढ़ जाता है, then it attracts more people coming to you. And try and add people into your network. I don't know how many you have. And I'm also myself not really very active on LinkedIn, but I keep posting jobs, so I that way I completely use it. I used to use it earlier for training programs and all that, but lately I'm not getting time to do that. But you guys should. Networking ke liye it's good. So maximum number of clients, to be honest, I have never done any kind of marketing for my business in last 8 years. Not even a single. No job posted, not nothing, no, sorry, job me. No advertising for the business other than the website that we have. That's it. We have been getting all these things purely on the basis of the connections on LinkedIn. Sometimes the organization, the CEOs or MDs, they tell somebody else that this organization is good, you can hire them as consultants. Sometimes the employee who changes the job, they recommend them. So that is how the entire thing has been going on. I mean, God has been really kind in that way with us. So, because sometimes word of mouth, I feel word of mouth is the best kind of advertisement that can happen if you're doing your job in a nice manner. Not boasting about self. And trust me, in one of the organization, one of the employee जिसके साथ शायद मैंने जिसको सबसे ज्यादा डांटा होगा. I used to actually, I'm on discipline because being in HR, sometimes you can't become friends. So I used to tell her every day, you're not coming on time, your performance is not correct, and all that. For a year and a half, I was always on her head. That's how the MD was telling me to always do these things. And when she changed jobs, she was the first one who recommended me. And I was really surprised. How come she recommended? But because I think she saw that I was doing my job diligently, and that is the reason why. She did. So, this is how people, you never know who can become your customer and client if you are doing your job in a right manner. So, look for this good talent client servicing executive, not executive, they are managers, and then we'll do that. Let me know within this week because we'll not be connecting on Saturday, Sunday. This weekend is SIRS. I think I'll rejoin on the next one. And we don't think we have shared the entire plan with you for how are we going in the 4 months, topic wise. That plan is not shared, right?
No,
No,
ma'am,
ma'am.
not yet.
Okay. I'll complete it tonight and I'll share it. I think because we started late now, so we created it before, keeping in mind I think the May date, then it changed to 15th June, so we did not really create it. I'll change that and I'll share it with you tonight. So that because it's very important for you guys to know what are the topics that we are covering, keeping in mind that it is just 4 months that we get in HR, and then who is covering which topic. Sometimes what happens is if I get busy on a weekend or sir gets busy on weekend, we exchange classes. So that can also happen in a topic over change. Generally, we don't do topic over change because we have already prepared ourselves. But sometimes sir gets really busy because he is in a full-time job. So he gets stuck on Saturdays specifically. So sometimes he asks me to take his topics and all. So topic wise, you have to correct and check that everything is covered. That responsibility will be yours completely. All right. Chalo,
Ma'am,
then see
actually, I
you.
was not,
Yeah, sorry,
ma'am,
Anushka.
actually, I was not able to hear properly what we have to do on LinkedIn.
On
So,
LinkedIn, create your network properly. Put complete your profile. उसमें हम फोटो मांगते हैं, आपका एक टाइटल मांगते हैं, whatever title fits your profile,
no, ma'am,
and then
that,
they ask you introduction section. That's all. Then you post the job. But अगर आपका
ma'am,
profile ही नया है ना, so I think it would be difficult for you to look for people on LinkedIn.
ma'am, can we look for people on somebody else LinkedIn ID? Because I'm having few of my
कर
seniors who are
सकते हो पर
using the
job
link.
post मत करना because that job has been given to us from that organization, no? So it cannot be rotating like
Okay,
that
ma'am. So I'll
freely.
create my LinkedIn ID within 2 days and then I'll
Hmm.
search for that post. Can you
Yeah,
please repeat that post, what we have to search for?
I'll share everything in detail
Okay, thank you.
uh, on your respective WhatsApp.
Okay, ma'am,
I
thank
don't
you.
want to share it in the group because sir bhi hai, Hardik sir bhi. I don't want it to. Like I said, there's a confidentiality. So I've told them that I'm using my students who are interning with us. That's how I've told them. So that is the reason why we can't
Okay,
really go beyond the confidentiality that we have signed with them.
okay,
NDA
ma'am.
sign करते हैं ना हम लोग, so it can't really go beyond that. That's why I'm not sharing in the group. ठीक है? I'll share
Okay,
it three of you. Just keep working on it. In case you find any difficulty, let me know.
sure,
Okay,
ma'am.
Manju.
All right. Thank you so much. And I'll share these
Thank
two
you so much.
PPTs. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Have a
Good
great week
rest
ahead.
of the day.
Bye
Yes,
bye.
have a
Thank you so much, ma'am.